everybody here today, but I've got a special welcome for anybody who's joining us for the very first time. It is really good to have you along with us today, and I hope that today's meeting will be useful and that you will learn something and you will come away feeling that it's been really worthwhile. Practically all of us here have been affected by the illness, so we understand just too well the exact anxieties that you feel and the isolation that you feel, especially whenever you leave the hospital environment. It can be very, very frightening, but we've all been through it. At least I've been through it. I was through it almost 18 years ago. So, and I've never forgotten the feelings that I had, so I can empathize with you. But most of us here, as I say, have either had esophageal cancer or stomach cancer, or else a close dear one has had it. So just there's one or two people on the screen, and I wouldn't mind asking them how long it is since they've had their operation. Paul, can you?
Plan on mute, yes.
But Paul is our treasurer. Paul, how long is it since you've had the operation?
It's 4 years past in July.
Right.
So yes, my background was I had Barrett's esophagus, was diagnosed, I think around in the late, well, about 2008, 2009. So I was on regular monitoring. And the message I would give is, if anybody that has it, please do. I always took comfort in the fact, and I say comfort in inverted commas, in the fact that there was a very low percentage of people who progressed to esophageal cancer from Barrett's, because I, being an optimist, thought I would be one of the 95% who didn't, but unfortunately I was one of the 5% who did. And the only reason I think I'm probably with you today is because I went regularly and got that checked out. They say every 2 years. I left it every 2 years, but you know, it can be quicker than that. So it's one of those things that you just really need to take the advice of the doctors. And if you have Barrett's esophagus, please don't ignore it. Get it checked regularly. That's my message to everybody.
Thank you very much, Paul. My story is exactly the same as yours. I started off with Barrett's. Lorraine is our volunteer coordinator and very, very active member of the committee. She'll be speaking later on today. Lorraine.
Hi, everyone. I was diagnosed 8 years ago this month. So hard to believe. I did not have Barrett's. I was different. I had squamous cell carcinoma. So I'd had a long history of gastric reflux, hiatus hernia, and was always on medication. And my story really is, and what I always emphasize with people, is that I had a scope done less than a year. I think it was 11 months whenever I went along to my GP because this was really bad. I was having a lot of reflux and indigestion, burping, etc. And my GP really did think that it couldn't really be anything serious because I had a normal scope 11 months before. So that's my message. And I know obviously they can't be scoping people all the time, but I think it's just that if you're only having your scope every 2 or 3 years, but your symptoms get worse, that's when you really need to go back to your GP and insist that you need further tests. And, you know, just don't ignore it just because somebody said, oh, your last scope was okay. But here I am, survived, and really enjoying being involved in OGCancerNI.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. Stuart, would you mind saying a wee bit?
Sure, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Good. Yeah, I was diagnosed 2 years ago in July past. Hadn't really very many symptoms, except that I suppose in the months leading up to that, I had some swallowing difficulties, not at the top of my throat, more stuff was sticking, I felt just at my stomach. And a very a very excellent GP decided that he wasn't going to give me any antacid medication, but that he wanted to get me scoped, and I was red flagged to have that done, and it happened within a few weeks of seeing my GP. And the rest of the story, I guess, is history. I had my 2-year anniversary for surgery will be this December, and it was a journey which many of you've been through, and some of you may have still to go through, between chemotherapy and then the surgery. One or two little hiccups along the way. I don't mean literal hiccups. I mean a few issues arose, mainly around the surgery, but everything ultimately went extremely well. And guess what? I'm back to work, and everything is really good.
Okay, thank you very much. So, well, you get the gist of what we're about. We all have experience. We all know how you feel. But what we have done is through OG Cancer, we have made connections with each other, and we have provided hope and support to each other as we've all gone on our journeys right through. And I'm really glad to see all the medical people who have joined on to the meeting today, because without them we wouldn't be here, and they can give us the correct advice. So often on social media, you would get sites that would give you information that was not correct. But you know that the information that you're getting in this meeting today is the very best information that you can have. We encourage you to ask questions. We do have some questions that have been submitted earlier on, but we really encourage you to ask questions. And as I say, use the chat, use the reactions button, or just wave furiously. Also on the screen, we have our speakers today, and we're absolutely delighted to invite them here today and to listen to what they're going to say. First of all, we have Judith Robb. Judith is a dietitian, and she's going to talk today about optimizing nutrition following esophageal and gastric surgery. We also have Ailish McLeod. I'm delighted you can join us today, Ailish. And her talk is about the happy pill. So I can't wait to hear about the happy pill. I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you very much for coming along. So if we can get Judith.
My name's Judith, and I'm one of the specialist upper GI surgery dietitians working in the Belfast City Hospital. Some of you may recognise my face. And today I'm going to talk a bit about optimising nutrition following esophageal and gastric surgery. There's quite a lot of nutritional considerations after esophageal and gastric surgeries, and I've got a list of a few that we'll go through today. I feel I should apologise in advance just in case it's a bit of information overload, but there'll be time for questions at the end, so please do ask if there's anything that comes up that you're wondering about. I thought I'd start off just with doing a bit of a recap of some of the surgeries, because I think that will help just to explain, especially the first point that we'll come to. So this is an esophagectomy, where all of the esophagus is moved. And as you can see in the bottom picture, the stomach is pulled up into the chest. So you can see there's quite a big difference in the shape and the size of the stomach with that. This operation involves removing part of the esophagus and part of the stomach. And then the last operation is a subtotal or a partial gastrectomy, where again, part of the stomach's removed and the bowel's brought up to make the remaining stomach. And in the City Hospital, we also have total gastrectomies where all of the stomach is removed. So that leads us to the first thing to consider, and that's reduced capacity after food. So as you've seen in the pictures, there's big changes to the GI tract. The changes really depend on the type of surgery as to what extent of capacity is reduced. And some people may have little or no stomach left, or the stomach just changes shape quite significantly. So this leads to what we call early satiety, which is really just feeling full very quickly. So if this is the case, what we recommend is a little and often approach, and we say that quite a lot. This involves just small, frequent meals and snacks that are high in energy or calories and high in protein as well, really aiming to eat every 2 hours or so. The best advice is really not to drink with meals, as this can fill up that small capacity, which leaves less room for food. Another thing that we find is a fear of eating. A lot of people have issues with swallowing or appetite before surgery, and it can take a bit of time just to build that confidence back up with eating and drinking afterwards. So what we normally recommend is to start off with very soft or sloppy foods. And in the hospital after surgery, this is the way we work with the diet anyway. Part of that is to allow the surgical joints to heal afterwards. But also it just gives a bit of time to get used to eating and drinking again if that has been an issue. The best thing to do is take your time and chew foods well. Avoid bending down straight after a meal, as this can give a sensation of food coming back up again. And really just try to reintroduce a variety of foods over time, just to bring a bit more interest back into the diet again. Don't let one bad experience put you off a food for a long time. You can find that the body takes a long time to adapt after surgery. So something that you may find difficult to take within a few weeks after surgery, another few weeks down the line, you may find that you manage it okay. Poor appetite can be quite common, and this is because the signals aren't really there anymore for your body to tell your brain that you're hungry. If you're finding that the appetite's very poor, again, one of the things we say so often is eat little and often. Introduce food slowly again, and aim for 3 small meals and 3 snacks each day. Some people find that large portions are quite off-putting, so try using a smaller plate and just filling that as full as you feel up to taking. Choose soft foods first, which require less energy to eat. Try and get a bit of fresh air before a meal to increase the appetite. And if you're feeling nauseous and that's affecting your appetite, the best thing to do is to try cold or room temperature foods instead of warm or hot foods. And ready prepared meals, again, they just take that burden off preparing your food, which can make it a wee bit easier for eating. If you have taste changes, try stronger flavors, so slightly spicy foods, or add in herbs and spices to your food. Again, only take sips of fluids with your meals, so that you can really optimize the amount of space you have for food. After surgery, we do find that weight loss happens in most, if not all cases. It is very common, and our aim as dietitians is to help you to minimize that weight loss and maintain a good nutritional status throughout recovery and long term. Dietetic input is essential with this, especially in the first number of weeks after surgery, and that's why we will see all patients, all clients in the city hospital before and after their surgery. And really, depending on what the weight and the appetite are doing, will depend how long you maybe need to keep in touch with us for afterwards. With all of our esophagectomies, we have the jejunostomy, or the feeding tube, which is placed during the surgery. And this allows us to advise on a bit of a top-up of nutrition overnight while you're getting used to the new way of eating and drinking after surgery. Some of you may be familiar with our telehealth scales as well. These are delivered out to the house and allow monitoring of weight each week at home. And it's good just to really give yourself an idea of what the weight's doing, but also the weights come through to us, so we can make sure that we're keeping in contact with you if and when you need it. If weight loss is an issue, we've got some tips that can help just to try and steady that out a wee bit. And the first thing would be to try and aim for at least 1 pint of full cream milk each day. And then to that milk, what you can do is you can add some skim milk powder. So the most commonly known one would be Marvel, but all supermarkets like Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury will do their own brands or their own versions of that. And you can add 4 tablespoons of skim milk powder to a pint of milk, and then use that throughout the day in cereals, cups of tea, and as glasses of milk as well. And it just adds a bit of protein, which helps to build muscle mass and keep the weight steady. Other sources of protein are things like your meat, fish, chicken, and eggs, your cheese, yogurts, nuts, or pulses. And again, if you're getting these twice a day, it'll hopefully help with the weight. We talk a bit about food fortification, and it's just adding foods to meals to make them a bit more calorific. So things like grated cheese or cream, butter, gravy can be added to mashed potato, or creamy sauces and extra cheese and things added to pasta dishes. Again, like we've mentioned, with the little and often, snacks are really very handy. So things that you can keep close by, like peanut butter, breadsticks, crisps, crackers, puddings, pastries, biscuits, those types of things are useful just to kind of nibble on throughout the day. And if these things aren't helping, some people will need supplement drinks. And again, after an esophagectomy or a gastrectomy, most people will have some experience with these drinks. With those, they just give extra calories and protein to top up what you're not getting from your meals and snacks. But like with your fluids, we advise you just to sip them very slowly throughout the day in between meals, so that they don't fill you up too much and put you off your meals and snacks. And also so that they don't cause any issues like dumping syndrome, which brings us to our next point. Dumping syndrome is something that we see quite often after surgery. We've got 2 types. The first is early dumping syndrome, and this usually happens within about 30 minutes or straight after eating. It's because of what's called accelerated gastric emptying. So basically, food is dumped from the stomach or from the reservoir for food into the duodenum or the bowel, and this causes contractions or distension, which can lead to things like nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, fatigue, dizziness, palpitations. And these can happen, just one of these things may happen, or it could be a combination of many things. The other type is late dumping syndrome, and this is usually about an hour to 3 hours after eating. And it's mainly related to sugar content of the food and fluids. This causes insulin to be released by the pancreas, and insulin is a hormone that helps to break down and absorb sugar in the diet. But an excess of insulin can cause what's called hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar levels, which can show symptoms like sweating, anxiety, shakiness, difficulty concentrating, palpitations, lightheadedness, and tiredness. Thankfully, dumping syndrome can be minimized and managed a lot of the time really by changes in the diet. And a lot of people find if they're putting these into practice that they may avoid dumping syndrome completely. So again, the first thing is to consider your portion sizes. If you're eating too big a portion, it moves through quite quickly. So go for smaller meals and eat more frequently. Again, avoid liquids at meal times. Small sips are okay if you feel you need it just to kind of keep the mouth moist and to move things down, but avoid glasses of milk for at least half an hour, or glasses of fluid, sorry, for at least half an hour before or after meal times. Be careful with refined sugar intake, and that's things like sugary drinks, syrups, honey, sweets, those sorts of things. And instead try eating more complex carbohydrates like bread, pasta, potato, and rice. Make sure you're eating slowly and chewing your food well. If needs be, you can lie down after eating, but we'll touch on that a wee bit later as well. Try to eat foods that are higher in fat, soluble fiber, so things like broccoli, pears, oats, and protein. And also avoid alcoholic drinks, which may make the symptoms worse. Another issue can be issues with bowels. Some people find that they have issues with constipation, and this can be helped with trying to increase soluble and insoluble fibre in the diet. So gradually increasing things like fruit and vegetables, whole grain cereals, breads, oats, those sorts of things. If you're increasing fibre, it is also important to increase fluid, and I know we've said to be careful with fluid before, so really just try sipping that throughout the day in between meals, and gradually increasing that as you're able to. Exercise moves the muscles around the gut, so can help the gut to move, so just increase your activity as you're able to. And if needs be, laxatives can be used just to get things moving, or to keep things moving if needs be. On the opposite end of the spectrum then, some people will also have diarrhea. This can be quite common if there's surgery that's affecting the gut at all. So sometimes it's an issue that settles over time. It's because of a reduced transit time throughout the GI tract. So basically things are just moving quicker than usual. It may be, like we've mentioned, related to dumping syndrome. But it could also be related to malabsorption, or where the food's not really being broken down and absorbed as well as it should be in the diet. And this can normally be seen by very pale or oily, difficult to flush away stools. For the management of diarrhea, some people again will require medication for that. Because you're losing a lot of fluid and some nutrition through the stools, some people will need vitamin and mineral supplements, and also to increase the fluid a little bit to replace any losses. And like we'd mentioned, the malabsorption, the main cause of that can be that your body's just not producing enough enzymes, which are the things that break down your food as you're eating. So some people may need enzyme replacement, which can be prescribed through the GP just to help the body to cope with those changes. Then acid regurgitation or reflux, again, another common issue after surgery. And what we recommend is to sit as upright as possible when eating, and for at least 30 minutes to half an hour afterwards. Whenever you're sleeping, try not to lie completely flat, and use pillows or the likes of a wedge under the mattress, or blocks under the base of the bed, just to keep yourself at a bit of an angle. Avoid bending, lifting down, or lying flat after eating. Avoid very hot, cold, spicy, or acidic foods, and avoid things like strong tea, coffee, or alcohol. Smoking can also make that issue worse, so if you can cut down or avoid that as well, it's useful. And if these things aren't helping to keep the symptoms at bay, then medication can be considered. So it's best to speak with the likes of your GP, or even our specialist nurses who are able to advise on this. Sometimes there can be a bit of scar tissue after surgery, and this can lead to food sticking. The best thing to do is try and modify the texture of the diet so that it can move past that narrowing as easily as possible. So just for example, if things like steak or roast beef are an issue, then trying the likes of minced meat with plenty of gravy is the first option. And then if that's still an issue, you can also puree or blend meat with plenty of sauce or gravy. And it's really looking at different foods to see how you can change them to make them easier to manage. It can be difficult at times to know what to do exactly on your own. So if you're struggling with that, do speak with a dietitian, and do that as soon as possible before symptoms get worse, because there can be ways of improving that. Some of the strictures or the narrowing can be helped by what's called a dilatation or a stretch. And if you speak with us or even with the likes of the specialist nurses or your surgical team, then we can arrange if it's appropriate to get some investigations and maybe some help with that if it is possible. Lastly, we're just thinking about micronutrient provision. So you're closely monitored by the surgeons, the specialist nurses and ourselves, and we try to make sure that at the right times throughout your recovery, you're given the right types of micronutrients that you need. If all of the stomach is being removed, you'll need B12 injections every 3 months. And otherwise, most people will need the likes of a complete or A to Z multivitamin. And some people may also need calcium, vitamin D, and iron supplementation as well. And if you've got any questions about that, again, speak with your team. We have a few common questions that we get asked. One can be about taste changes, which is it may be caused by things like the anesthetic, or it could just be a result of the change in anatomy. Some people find fresh pineapple or sparkling water before a meal helps to clear the mouth and cut through anything that may be causing those taste changes. Again, if food won't go down, if it feels like it's sticking, the best thing to do is to stand up and walk about, and the gravity helps just to move things through. Have a look at the diet and see if there's any changes that need to be made. And also be careful not to try and drink a lot of fluid to move the food down. This can just build up and sometimes come back up again if there is something that's not moving through. Immediately after surgery, it's difficult to know exactly how much food to eat to start off with. So we normally talk about a child-sized portion, or using the palm of your hand as a bit of a guide. And then gradually, as your body adapts, you may find that you can increase portion sizes, but just do that very gradually. Just to summarize, it can take up to a year and sometimes even a bit longer for things to adapt after surgery. So just take your time with recovery, enjoy your meals and snacks as best as possible. And once your weight has stabilized out and you're feeling full of energy and fitter and active again, you can move back to a healthy and balanced diet that's lower in fat and sugar and high in fruit and vegetables. And again, if there's any concerns or if you need any extra support, please do get in contact with us and we can hopefully help with that. So thank you very much for listening. I know it has been a bit of a whirlwind and information overload, but I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
exercise, the happy pill. So I'm going to give a brief. You spoke really well about my history, but in days gone past, I used to do in cardiothoracic, and at that stage we used to treat our upper GI through our TTOs, as they would have said, and so I did have quite a long career treating post-surgery. Now on that, in those days, I probably didn't have just as much of an impact at pre-surgery, and basically when news left, we didn't have as much of an input as I think we should now. Since those days, I've got really into my exercise, and I've decided that exercise is as good as it gets, what we say, the happy pill, and it definitely gets me through the day. So this morning exercise, that set me up for the day. So my daughter was doing a talk about 3 weeks ago, and she was doing it on mental health, and she wanted an approach on exercise or mental health. So we decided that with my background, that probably this would be the best way to tackle it. So exercise gives you endorphins, endorphins makes you happy. And that's a little quote from a film. So we sat and watched Legally Blonde. I don't know if anybody's ever watched Legally Blonde. I don't know if I can say the rest of it, but basically it's exercise gives you endorphins, endorphins makes you happy. Happy people don't kill their husbands, they just don't. So basically, it is one of those comments and one of those quotes out of a movie that I just think is just so right. When you exercise, you feel good, and when you feel good, you do good things. So is physical activity beneficial for cancer survivors? Yes, without a doubt, it is. So a report, hold on, I've moved the screen. A report of the 2018 American College of Sports Medicine basically concluded that exercise training and testing are generally safe for cancer survivors, and that every survivor should maintain some level of physical activity. So basically it's about finding that right level. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit more about. So there's strong evidence, so the evidence is out there that moderate intensity aerobic training and or resistance exercise during and after cancer treatment can reduce anxiety, depressive symptoms, fatigue, and improve health-related quality of life and physical function. It is beneficial for bone health and sleep quality. So this is where I know if I have dropped the amount of exercise, my sleep basically goes to pot. When I exercise, my sleep is fantastic. When I don't exercise, my sleep is awful. So knowing the strength of exercise in mental health. There's just my little barbell with 2 brains on it, but basically it is such a powerful tool for mental health. It is ridiculously powerful. So I'm just moving my face over to the left-hand side here. Okay, first let's outline some of the key statistics between exercise and mental health. And I find these really interesting. There's a 20 to 30% lower risk of depression and general feelings of distress for adults participating in daily physical activity. And that's from the Start Active, Stay Active. People who exercise regularly have 1.5 fewer bad days a month on average than those who don't. The odds of getting depression for people managing 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise a week is 22% lower than those who don't. So 150 minutes of moderate exercise are the WHO guidelines, and that is what they recommend for every person to exercise a week. 150 minutes of moderate exercise, and that's with 2 sessions of strength. So why is exercise good for mental health? The most prominent benefit is that it releases those feel-good brain chemicals. As we talked about earlier, endorphins. They relieve pain and stress in the mind and give us that feeling of enjoyment during physical activity and other pastimes. And for anybody who doesn't exercise, they think you are probably crazy to actually think that, but it is true. They do relieve pain and stress, and they give you when they talk about your pain threshold, they really do increase your pain threshold. So you might have heard about the runner's high, and this is essentially describes how people feel after a run, that quick release of endorphins into your body. So endorphins, it is one of the many neurotransmitters in our brain that determines how we think and feel about certain situations. And when these are activated, especially during exercise, they do trigger the release of those helpful chemicals, which get us through the activity, but also improve our general mood. Another one, serotonin. So when we exercise, serotonin is also released. So this is a chemical that most antidepressants target in an effort to improve their mood. So 75% of our body's serotonin is stored in our gut. So to regulate intestinal movements is the 25% in our brains that we're interested in for mental health. So this is really quite important for our patients' upper GI. So 75% are stored in our gut. So according to the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence, exercise increases the function of serotonin in humans. Firstly, motor activity improves the rate at which it's fired, and secondly, enhances the amount of tryptophan in the brain, which is an amino acid used to create it. Mental health benefits of exercise. So it's basically training the brain. So it gets you to release those helpful positive chemicals. It can actually increase the size of our hippocampus in the brain, and that's the part responsible for memory. Furthermore, more connections between our nerve cells develop and grow, and that also helps to protect our minds from injury and mental illness. It's a natural energy source. So how many times, well, myself, so I'm going to just talk about myself. I come home from work, I think to myself, I really should go for a jog. I really should go for a walk. I really should think about even just meeting my friend, going for a walk, you know, just to get a bit of activity. You know, if you're sitting at the desk and the first you think, I'm just too tired, I am just absolutely exhausted. But somehow you get yourself into that way of thinking and you go, no, I'm just going, and whatever happens, happens. And you come home from the walk and you are buzzing. And this is it. It gives you this energy source. So whilst you might not want to do it, it actually motivates us. You know that you're going to feel better. So you know it's going to give you energy. So you just get on with it and you just do it. So it really helps fight that draining effect. That when you're feeling down, when you've got just a few things on your mind, it just gives you, it just sets you up for the day and gets you going. It does release tension. So put a little hand in there, but it's like exercise nearly is like a form of massage. It's somehow those feelings of low mood can, you know, increase that tension in your shoulders and your neck. And exercise like yoga or Pilates just releases and eases the tension and just makes it a really good exercise for mental health. So it gives you that, you know, you've worked that muscle now needs to relax. The relaxation of those muscles then makes you feel better. You know yourself when you're feeling really stressed, you've got that increased tension in your shoulders, you've got your shoulders up so high, you go for a walk, you do some exercise, and they naturally just drop down. It's an achievement. So there's nothing like setting yourself many goals. So, you know, we're not saying, oh, we're going to go and do a half marathon. But we're saying things like, do you know what? For this week, I'm going to go out and I'm going to walk a mile. Then the next day you walk the mile. But then the next week you look at your watch and you say to yourself, I've actually walked that mile 1 minute less than I did last week. And the competitive side in you will say, well, do you know what? I'm not getting any slower. That's now my 1 mile walk time. I'm not going any slower. And it gives you that feeling of achievement. So it's everybody's goals. It's not comparable to anybody else. It's how you set for yourself. So pushing for that achievement. I'm going to go out from a 1 mile walk. I'm going to do that 5 times a week and keeping with it. this isn't necessarily something that you maybe would be thinking about. But at the end of the day, once your weight maintains, or, you know, you can get to that point where you might end up thinking, do you know what? I want to feel good. I want to, you know, look at the way I look. And you can actually decide to target by doing your strength work, by doing your any sort of weight type work. You can change your body shape, which then in itself increases your self-esteem. So it's about the muscle development. And as Judith was talking about, getting your protein and getting that development that gives you shape and makes you feel good. And as we said before, if you're getting your 8 hours of shut-eye, then you just feel better. So exercise does make you sleep better. It's that ability to rest. And sometimes just making exercise an important part of your day means that you do sleep better at night. And it gives you that your mind can just shut off and regenerate and help you for the next day. And also, mental health wise, avoiding isolation. So there are many types of exercise which encourage you to interact with those around you. And I think that's why lockdown and social distancing has been so difficult. You know, at one point that you weren't even allowed to go out for a walk with your friend, even though it was outside. I think back to those days, but getting yourself involved in any sort of sport, whether it be bowling, whether it be tennis, whether it be a walking club, running club, it just helps to overcome that feeling of isolation, which then helps with those mental health difficulties, just connecting with other people. And it's a welcome distraction. Have you ever had those days where you think, I'm just going to chill today, I'm doing nothing, I was really, really busy. And then you look at the clock and you think to yourself, this day is going so slow. I need to do something, I need to structure my day. So it allows you to break those negative thought patterns that give you that low mood, gives you something to focus on, and it's a really effective coping mechanism. And again, probably one for me, outlet for frustrations. You know, we all have different stresses in our lives. Everybody has different ways of dealing with them, but it is an outlet for, so for me, 4 children, busy house, running all the time. Once I get my exercise, I get my release of serotonin and endorphins. I feel good, I feel less frustrated, and I feel better. And that's basically that outlet. You know, my thing is weights. I like to pick up a barbell, I like to pick up a dumbbell. To me, the frustration just melts. So finding the right exercise for you, it is basically what can you manage. So as I said before, it's about making your own goals. It's not about what anybody else is doing. It's not about what your friend down the street's doing. It's about what you can manage. So if it's a walk to the shop every day or a class at a local gym, you have to enjoy it. So you're going to stick with it if you do enjoy it. It's great. You say to yourself, I'm doing 2 Pilates classes a week and 1 yoga, but actually you hate Pilates and you hate yoga. You're not going to stick with it. You have to find something. And if it is walking, brilliant. Just find something that you enjoy, or maybe enjoys the wrong word. Find something that you don't mind doing. And then hopefully you will get that feeling of enjoyment after you get into it, and you get that accomplishment and achievement. It's about making those changes gradually. So that's what I'm saying. You don't go out and say to yourself, I'm going to go and walk 8 miles today. No, you're going to pick a distance, then you're going to increase it by 10% every week. 10%. So today I walked 5,000 steps by 5. So I've done 25,000 steps. I'm going to do 10% more next week. And that's until you get to that point. You go, do you know, that's as much. I've got my 150 minutes of moderate exercise. I'm doing 2 strength sessions. I don't need to do, I'm on maintenance now. And then look at to see what's available locally. And not everybody has the same resources at their door. Not everybody has a gym, but it's about finding things that you know, do you know what? I'm going to buy that stretchy band. I'm going to buy that kettlebell. such and such told me about kettlebell squats, kettlebell deadlifts, kettlebell swings, you know, finding something that is handy, accessible, and you know that there's a little app on your computer that you can log in and you've got your 20 minutes of exercise. That's it, done, dusted. There actually is something for everyone. There really is. And that's me.
All right, thank you very much, Eilish. Thank you. Just a point of exercise, I wish Louise, one of the clinical nurse specialists, all the very best, but she's taking part in the London Marathon tomorrow.
Very good.
But that's
Very
extreme.
good.
Again, I could be doing the London Marathon. But funny, I was at our local leisure centre just last week. I'm in the Belfast area. And for £5, because I'm over 60, would you believe?
I know.
I can get a year's membership of the gym, and that is a one-off payment. There's no further payment. I can use all the facilities between, I think, 6 o'clock in the morning and 11 o'clock in the morning, and that is for the whole year. And that includes the pool, it includes Pilates, it includes everything.
Brilliant.
So, I mean, I'm sure other councils probably do something similar. I don't know, but there's no excuse really, because there's so many classes on offer.
There is plenty out there, and it is about just finding that you know, I think sometimes people want to make their exercise cool as well. You know, it's not, you know, a walk, it relieves that tension. You're talking to your friend, even if you put your headphones on and just, you know, just get out of the house, get moving, you come back, you're buzzing, you're in brilliant form, and then it's just that nice chain that affects everything else.
And I can remember after my operation, what she says almost 18 years ago, I first of all started to walk out to the gate and back, and then I increased a little bit every day, and you know, it was great.
Yeah.
Because I was unable to walk to the park and so on and so forth, just a little bit more each day, and it made me feel so much better. But anyway, has anyone any questions for Eilish? Any questions? The impact of COVID on people who've gone through the operation recently, that has, apart from dealing with the trauma of the operation and all that goes with it and so on and so forth, and all the treatment, also dealing with COVID as well, has certainly not helped a lot of people. And I think there are a lot of mental issues out there. And as you quite rightly say, that little bit of exercise can get the good, happy gene, happy thoughts going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also Move More, which, are you aware of Move More? That Macmillan?
Yes, I am. My thing very much as well has always been with the public health messages as well. So it's like about making every contact count, and about just little bite-size activities during the day. You know, it's Move More, but making them small and achievable. I think people sometimes have this idea in their head that they have to get 30 minutes all in a row. It's not. You can do it in 5 to 10 minute bouts. It doesn't have to be. You can, you know, depending on your energy levels, depending on how you're feeling, 5 to 10 minutes has the cumulative effect and gives you the advantages of the exercise.
Yeah. So it definitely does make you feel good, and it doesn't matter whether you're sitting in a chair or what you're doing, just exercise makes you feel good. Are there any questions? I think you've covered everything. Eilish?
Thank you.
Listen, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Oh, here, hold on. Does anyone know if Move More is available? It was suspended during lockdown. I do know. Karen?
Yeah, it's back up and running again, Stuart. Yeah.
I know during lockdown, Shauneen was a member of her group in Craigavon, and they used to meet and go for a walk in the open air whenever it was available. Yes, somebody else has come back and said it is available at the minute. That you can refer yourself, or you can ask your doctor to refer you for Move More, and they will initiate an exercise program especially for you and your capabilities. and so on, and work with you that way. So if any of you are thinking of that, it would be worthwhile looking up. It's province-wide, and I'm sure your local leisure centre would possibly give you more information about it. Would that be correct? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, Helen, just on the move more, whenever we took part in the Sage and Time
Yes.
stuff in Orangefield, there was Move More people involved in that, so they're fairly well. So it's not us actually going to them, because it's a reciprocal thing, because they know of our circumstances as well. We met quite a few of them at those courses. Yeah.
The courses that Paul's talking about, Sage and Time, a lot of us went and we received training from Macmillan at that particular time, because we were dealing with patients and we needed to have training in line. But Lorraine will probably tell you more about that. And it's Lorraine who is our next speaker. Lorraine, you met earlier on. She was telling you about her operation. She is a great committee member and a trustee of the charity. And Lorraine, if you're ready, we're ready for you about volunteers.
Yeah, certainly.
Hi.
Can you hear me there? Okay, yeah.
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, just to let you know, as already said, I was a patient myself going back 8 years ago, and I have become involved in the charity, and really, I must say, I really do enjoy being involved with volunteering, and have therefore become the volunteer coordinator. So I just wanted to speak to you. I know there's some people on today who haven't been at our meetings before, but just to let you know about the opportunities that you can have to become involved in our charity. For start off, we are all volunteers. I mean, we just wouldn't exist without volunteers. We wouldn't have our events without volunteers. I sort of thought I'd look at it sort of under the headings of things that we do and our aims. And our main aim is supporting patients, those affected by stomach and esophageal cancer. So how have our volunteers been doing that? Well, like today, our health and wellbeing meetings, and especially the face-to-face ones, there's a lot more involved and a lot more volunteers needed for the smooth running of that, and hopefully that will be happening in spring next year. Telephone calls, this is quite a new project, but some volunteers have been phoning new patients just to offer them a bit of support, let them know what we do, and just to be there. And people do find it good to have a chat with someone who has been through a similar experience. Our information desk, we had an information desk manned by volunteers on a Tuesday morning in the foyer of the City Hospital to coincide with the clinics that were being run. And these volunteers were the ones that did the appropriate training with Macmillan, and we were there, so it meant that people coming into the clinic, maybe people just being diagnosed, or even we met some people who were en route to be admitted to have surgery. I think maybe that's how we first met Stuart. And also to speak to the public and to speak to relatives and that too. So that was support we were giving, and it's been very well received. Postponed at the minute, of course, due to COVID, but we will get it up and running again. So it's another opportunity for volunteers, and we could, we definitely could use more. News sheets, there's volunteers have been very kindly involved in getting out our news sheets quarterly. And those news sheets have had supportive information and been a good contact, especially during the isolation due to COVID. So there's sort of opportunities around supporting patients. There's more to that, but just gives you a flavour. Then another one of our main aims is to raise public awareness of the signs and symptoms of esophageal and stomach cancer to hopefully lead to more early diagnosis and much better outcomes for patients. So how do volunteers get involved in doing that? We would attend health fairs. So communities having health fairs, we go along, have a stand, bring our information with us and speak to members of the public. Presentations, giving presentations to community groups, And some of these things, the likes of that has continued. There has been a few done through Zoom as well. Attending GP training events, so again having their stand, their information, and with that it's more about letting the GPs have an idea of the patient's point of view of how it feels about signs and symptoms, and really impress on the need for a prompt referral, so there's early diagnosis and better outcomes. And then simple things like distributing leaflets and posters, maybe to local libraries, local pharmacies, local community centres, just to get us out there so that people know about us, know what we do, and to raise awareness there again of the signs and symptoms. And another thing then would be the fundraising, because we do support a lot. We try to support by buying equipment, funding, helping to fund research, and all the other things we do. We do need money to be able to do it. So fundraising, we've had an Supple Cycle twice, which was a sponsored cycle ride. We had our yearly quiz nights and sponsored walk, sponsored run. This is all just to mention a few, and none of these things would happen without volunteers. And I must say they're all fun events that you're giving something, but I always feel I'm getting something back from it, because you make great friends and it's good crack and good fun. And fundraising, on the subject of fundraising, the past few years we had Christmas cards. I just sort of give us an idea if I can maybe see them or not, can you? So these Christmas cards, are you seeing them or not? I don't know. These Christmas cards would be our little charity Christmas cards, and we normally sell them at face-to-face events, which obviously is difficult at the moment. So they're normally about usually charging £5 a packet. Because of the situation how it is, we are sort of offering to do, if you buy 2 packets for £11, and that will include your postage, package and posting. So do let us know if you're interested, and we'll get those off. I'm sure you're all thinking about Christmas at the minute, getting organised. And a couple of other new things that are on the horizon for fundraising, and that would be an event called Cup of Tea for OG, or the alternative would be a G&T for OG. So we'll need lots of volunteers to help run those events. And we're always happy for suggestions as well, if anybody's any really good ideas. So we're sort of moving, obviously things have been at a bit of a standstill for events. We are moving on. Some of our volunteers are taking part in a conference in mid-October. When I say taking part, having a stand and information. And it's a conference that's attended by upper GI surgeons and professionals that work alongside them, and it would be from all over UK and Ireland. We're obviously not there to tell these people about the signs and symptoms, but we are there to let them know what our charity does and how we work alongside them in supporting patients and raising awareness. So we're already sorted with volunteers for that, but to say in the future, there's lots and lots of opportunities. So sometimes people was thinking, oh, well, I couldn't do that, or I couldn't give a talk, or I couldn't do whatever. But, we need all sorts of skill mix for volunteers. Should you be organising an event, helping with the catering, there's just lots and lots of things. And say we need a skill mix, and all skills are so valuable. Though, just to mention, there is one, sort of come up with us, in today's world, we use so much of digital technology to get our word out there. So if there was anyone out there who has good WordPress and digital advertising experience and could help with social media and web support, we would be really, really glad to hear from you. And it was just like maybe an hour or so a week to help us with that. So if you are a volunteer, don't think you'd be left on your own. If you have any issues, any concerns, there's always good support. As already has been mentioned, training, we definitely make sure there's training available where necessary. We have regular meetings to keep that support going, and we would try to have a social event annually to thank our volunteers and have a good get together. I must say that had been curtailed for a while, but just this week we had a lovely special event for our volunteers, which was kindly hosted by Stuart, and it was in the Long Gallery in Stormont. I'm not promising that we'll be back there again, but it was a lovely event, and thank you, Stuart, for that. So I hope I have inspired some people to think about maybe becoming involved as a volunteer for our charity. Do let us know if you would like to do that. And if you'd like some Christmas cards, let us know and we can get that arranged. Okay, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. That was great. Yes, as I say, the charity, as you said, would not run if we didn't have volunteers. We depend on them. So we are almost all, practically all volunteers in the charity. So please, if you would think you could volunteer in some way or other, please get in touch with us. And we do have a volunteer form that you can fill in. We can get you to fill that in. Lorraine has put together a whole package for volunteers. There's the risk assessment, all these different things that she's put together. So it's very well structured and very well organized. And as to say, we're looking for more volunteers all the time. Also, because of COVID, our plans last year all changed, and we had hoped to go out around the province, go to different wellbeing meetings, agricultural shows and so on, and go out and talk to people face to face. Obviously that didn't happen, but however, we hope that it will happen in the near future. So if we're going to your neck of the woods, or even if you like to travel, please get in touch and let us know that you can help out at that particular time. Okay, we're always here. We can always get in touch with us. We have the email address info@OGCancerNI. We have our phone, which I can't remember the number offhand, but it's all detailed, and there's also postage. At the minute, our office is based in the Patrick Johnson Centre for Cancer Research, part of Queen's Building, and due to COVID restrictions, we're not fully back in there at the minute. So but it is a great venue as well for us, and we're very, very grateful that we have that. So that is our address. We are in to Keck Post and so on, and we're getting in more and more now, able to have one or two little meetings. So there we go. Thank you, Lorraine. As I say, please get in touch. The Christmas cards are lovely, and let us know your address and so on. It's £11, and we will post them out to you in plenty of time for Christmas. Anybody who's here, as I say, Mr. Kennedy is here, and the clinical nurse specialists are here, and of course we've got Judith and we've got Ailish as well. So if anybody has any questions that they'd like to raise. I have a couple of things here. The Consumer Council has been in touch, and they have asked me to spread the message that they investigate complaints free of charge in relation to energy, postal services, transport and water and sewerage and private car parking. And in the last year, Northern Ireland consumers got back £1 million in redress. In these areas, we are to have particular regard to consumers who are disabled or chronically sick, or of pensionable age with low income, or who reside in rural areas. We offer free resources which are available on our website and can be posted when we reopen the office. And the other message I have, usually we have a girl from Make the Call on, and if I just find where it is, contact details for Make the Call. It's a benefit service run by NI Direct, and I may have a screen share which will give details. It's not coming out. There we go. Make the Call, contact details for Make the Call service. This service makes sure you're getting all the benefits, services and supports that you are entitled to. There's a free phone network charge may apply, and there's an email address, and the opening hours are from Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. excluding public holidays. And both the Make the Call notice and the Consumer Council notice have been put onto our website if you want any more information about that. So that remains for me to thank everyone who has contributed to the programme today. This is for patients, by patients and by the medical staff, and I want to thank everybody sincerely for the input that they have put into today's meeting. I hope it has answered many of your questions. I hope it has helped many of you. And don't forget, we are at the end of a telephone call or at the end of an email if you have any questions or any queries. And if you would like to volunteer for us, we would be more than delighted to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for further meetings which we could talk about, please let us know. Please let us know what can help you. We'll be very, very glad to hear from you. And I think that remains to be once again to say, keep safe, take care, and we'll see you again soon. And thank you very much to everyone who has helped today. Thank you.